Dre all day.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And we put all this together into one streamlined process. We have codified our entire system. We wrote a book on the subject. We have a university, and you'll listen to the masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, what is success for you? What does that word mean to you? How would you know that you have become successful? How do you know when you have reached success? What do you need to be doing to feel like you are on the path to success? I asked this question, not this question, but I asked the question online of how many people you know who you would call successful. I actually posted a poll, I think, on my social media story, and I said, of all the people that you know, what percentage would you say is successful? And the poll only offers two options. So it was more than 50% or less than 50%. And the majority of the answers, I think like 85% of the answer was less than 50%. Most people say less than half of the people that they know are successful. And I remember maybe 5 years ago, I was on Periscope. And Periscope was like the first live streaming application to really take off. And on Periscope, I was asking this question of the people that you know, what percentage would you say are successful? And this is when people are commenting. I'm saying, all right, what percentage of people would you say are successful? Half, 75%, 80%, 2%, 10%. And there were people saying 10%, 5%, 0, 20%. That many people, I think everyone wants to be successful. At least people who are, anybody who's in my orbit. You coming into my space and the things that I'm talking about, you want to be successful on some level. But then I asked, how many people do you know who actually have achieved it that you can at least look at or model yourself after, or you know what you're aiming for? And a lot of people say that they don't really know a lot of successful people. And then I ask people, what does success mean? And many people don't even have an answer to the question. So what exactly does success mean for you? Now, in this masterclass here today, I'm not going to tell you what success means for you. That wouldn't make any sense. You have to decide what it means for you. But what I'm going to do is offer you some prompts. I'm going to offer you some ideas and some insightful questions that you're going to play around with that can help you identify and help you define what success means for yourself so that you know where you're going. Because again, anybody who's listening to this, I'm strongly assuming that you want to be successful. But the thing is, when I ask people what does success mean, very few people can really give me a clear answer to what success means for them. So whether we're talking business, whether we're talking personal, whether you're talking in your relationship, whether you're talking playing a sport, what does success mean for you? You need to know what this means so that you have some idea of why the hell you're getting out of bed in the morning. Why are you showing up at work? Why are you going to the gym? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Because again, you're after success, right? So what is success? If you don't know, then, what are you working for? What are you showing up for? So let's get into that. Point number one. The topic once again is, what is success for you? I'm going to give you the work on your game definition of success. And this is something that I wrote my entire book called The Mental Workbook is based on this definition right here. And that is, you have goals and you are actively pursuing those goals. Period. That's the work on your game definition of success. There's something that you want to achieve or multiple things that you wish to achieve, and you are in the moment taking actions in order to achieve those outcomes. So as long as you're going after something, you are successful by the work on your game definition. Now, you do not necessarily have to adopt this definition, but what you do need to do is have a definition period for you. What does success mean for you? Maybe there are multiple things that make success. Maybe you could have 10 different ways that would make success for you, and as long as you're hitting at least 3 of them, then you can call yourself successful. Or maybe there's just one, and until you do this one thing, you haven't reached success yet, or you're on your way, or this will check off the box. But you got to decide, what does success look like and feel like for me? Most people, again, say that they want to be successful, which is a good ideal to be going after. You want to be successful, great. But what does success look like, feel like, and smell like for you? If you don't know, how can you achieve something when you don't know what it is? And while that sounds a pretty simple idea, right? And most people will listen to that and say, yeah, that's absolutely right. The thing is, a lot of people say they want to be successful. Okay, what's success? And they can't answer. They got to think about it. Their eyes start going in different directions because they're trying to get their brain to give them an answer, and they don't even know. Even though you want to be this thing, but you don't even know what it is. So what does success look like for you? What would you need to see in your own life to be successful? How would you need to feel about yourself to be successful? What elements need to be going on? What elements need to be around you in order for you to be successful? Because you can't achieve something if you don't know what it is. It's hard to score without a goal, right? You can't score in basketball if there's no rim on the backboard. You can't score in soccer if there's no net for you to kick the ball into. It's hard to hit a target when you can't actually see the target, or if there is no target, or if there's no bullseye in the middle of the target. So knowing the definition of success for you, again, everybody can define success however they want. There's no governing body that tells you what success has to be for you, but you need to know what it is. And if you don't know, then again, what the hell are you doing and why are you doing it? Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is what is success for you? I was speaking to Anna about this, and I asked her, how would you define this phrase success? I mean, everybody wants to be successful. How would you define success? And she said, she started referring to the internal conversation that human beings have, because we were having conversations about people who have become publicly noted for their success, but we all of us know that there are people who have become publicly noted for their success, but then they do something that shows that maybe they weren't even happy with themselves and with their lives and with all these external accomplishments that to the outsider looking in, it looked like they've created a ton of success. So let's say they made a certain amount of money, or they're on TV, or they got a bunch of followers on the internet, or they got a trophy for this, or they did this thing or that thing that many people spend their whole lives striving to do. They did it, but then something happens that shows that maybe they weren't even happy, even though they had all these accomplishments. So is that person successful? And in my conversation with Anna, she was saying, well, if the person's doing something that shows that they weren't even happy with themselves, then they're not successful. Now, while it's really hard for us to, and damn near impossible for most of us, if we're being honest, to psychoanalyze how another person feels about themselves, you can't really tell how another person feels about themselves based on what? I mean, unless you're a clinical psychologist or you've been trained in this, I don't know how we can do that. But you spend enough time on the internet, you see a lot of people who think they can analyze what's going on in another person's brain. But anyway, I like the perspective that Anna shared about being happy with yourself and how you feel about you as a supplemental way, at least, of viewing success. And some people might see this as the full course of viewing success, how you feel about yourself. For example, there's a guy by the name of Anthony Bourdain, and many of you probably know who he is, or maybe you've heard of him. And I had an idea who he was. I knew his name. I didn't really follow his material that much. But Anthony Bourdain was a television star. He was a star on TV. And looking him up on Wikipedia, it described him as an American chef, a book author, a journalist, and a travel documentarian who starred in programs focusing on the exploration of international culture, cuisine, and the human condition. So I know that Anthony Bourdain had a TV show, and I'm keeping this as simple as possible because I hadn't watched the show or known that much about the guy, but I knew his name. He would travel around the world and go to different countries and understand their culture, and he would eat their food and taste the food, and they would do TV shows about this. So this guy's job was to travel the world, go to exotic and different places that most people never go to. At least most people are from whatever country they're from, and they never leave that. They don't even leave their city, let alone they leave the country. He's traveling the world, trying different foods, experiencing different cultures, and his job was to just do these things, try these foods, talk to these people, learn about their culture, and put the shit on TV. That seems like a pretty damn good job. All right, there are people who are striving to do that for a living right now. That's what Anthony Bourdain did for a living, and he was probably the most popular person in the world at doing it. He was a travel blogger times 1,000. All right, he was a travel blogger supercharged on national TV shows, writing books, all of those things. And again, everybody knows his name. What happened with Anthony Bourdain? He hanged himself, and he committed suicide. So was Anthony Bourdain successful? By the definition that I am bringing up here in point number 2, being your internal conversation, you being happy with yourself. Again, we don't know what Anthony Bourdain was thinking, what was going on in his head, but apparently he wasn't so happy with what was going on in his own life. I don't know why. We don't know why he wasn't so happy with what was going on in his own life, but apparently there was something that wasn't working right for him because he decided to take his own life, even though the job that he had and the work that he was doing to the outside world, he was the very definition of success. He had the job. There are people who are doing everything that they can to get the job that he has right now. And he killed himself. So was he successful? Despite the outside image of success, something wasn't right in his mind with his situation. So did he have an ideal? Did he have some things that he was trying to achieve? I would think so. Was he on the path to achieving them? I think so. By the first definition, by the work on your game definition. But was he happy with himself? I'm not quite so sure. So for you, asking yourself, what is success to you? And you get into this second question. Are you happy with yourself? And what's interesting, and I don't know how much, if you listen to people who are into psychology or people who talk about achievement and they talk about success and they talk about personal fulfillment, somebody like Tony Robbins who talks about these things all the time, a lot of times people who achieve a whole lot are not by this definition successful because they're not even that happy with themselves despite all the things that they've accomplished. So what's funny in life is that you have a lot of people who are trying to achieve things. They're trying to get to these big outcomes and they're working really hard. I need to make this much money. I want to sell this many of my product. I want to have this many people know my name. I want to win this trophy. I want to get to this level and then this benchmark and then this benchmark. And they're trying to get there, working to get there. By the first definition of success that I gave you here, having a goal and going after it, these people are successful but they don't feel successful until they get to having reached those outcomes. And then on the other side of the coin, you got people who have already reached those outcomes. They already have made X amount of dollars. They've won these trophies. They've been recognized in this place. They have achieved this benchmark, that benchmark. The things that so many people say are, if I do that, I will feel successful. There are people who have already done it, and then they are not that happy with themselves. And I've heard many people who work with individuals who are really, really high achievers, people who have achieved. And there are some people who I've worked with who have achieved at levels that the average person, if I said, okay, you can have these accomplishments that this guy has. All right, this is how much money he makes a year. Would you be happy if you were making that much money? And people would say, hell yeah, I'd be happy if I was making that. This guy has achieved this. He's done this. He did this for this many years. He achieved this. These things that people look at as just markers of success. They have done it. Would you be happy? You who hasn't done it yet, you striving to get there, would you be happy if you did that? And most people would say, hell yeah. And then the person who actually has it, they're not that happy. The person who actually has it they're not even pleased with themselves and with their own lives for whatever reason. I mean, there are so many different reasons. Every human being is different. So we can't put people into boxes, but it's very interesting that it happens like that. Isn't it? And everyone who's listening to me right now, I mean, almost everyone who's listening, you're on one side or the other of this coin. You're either on the side of you have already achieved these big things that most people, if they did it, they would be really happy, or at least they think they would be really happy because they haven't done it yet. You've already achieved it, but you're not that happy. You don't feel that successful despite the fact that you have, by Western standards, the very picture of success. But then on the other side, you got the people who haven't done it yet, and they're like, as soon as I get to X, Y, Z, the things that you already got, they're like, I'll be happy then. I'll feel successful then. As soon as I do that, I'll be successful. But then when they get there, all of a sudden they're not successful anymore. So maybe it takes a little bit more than just striving for a goal. Maybe it does have a lot to do with that internal conversation. And the challenging thing about the internal conversation is that the only person who knows what's really being said in that conversation is you. And the only other people who will know are the people that you're willing to be vulnerable and open and honest with about what that internal conversation really is. And none of us can tell another person what their internal conversation is. And if they won't be open and honest with us, then we will never know. So really, when it comes to success in this second definition, what's so pivotal about this definition is that only you can answer the question. Only you can say whether you are successful or not. And there was a basketball coach named John Wooden, a legendary basketball coach who coached the UCLA Bruins and won, I think it was 11 championships that he won. And the winningest coach, the most, I would say, by definition of the Western definition of succeeding, which is winning, the most successful college basketball coach in history still to this very day. And John Wooden, even though his teams were so dominant, they were winning championship after championship, it was like a foregone conclusion they were going to win games damn near every time they played during his heyday. And John Wooden, because his teams were so damn good, it's not like he could go to his players and say, all right, we're successful if we win the game, because they were going to win the game. They could just halfway show up and not even really give a full effort. They were just so good that they were going to win a lot of their games. Someone once asked John Wooden late in his career, what is the key to being so successful as a coach and winning so many games, John Wooden? And John Wooden said that the key is having the best players. And it was being tongue in cheek, but he was being honest. He had the best players. And John Wooden, because of this, he would tell his players, listen, we have the talent that we're going to win a lot of our games just by showing up because we are just better than the other team, period. So the only way that you will actually know if you're successful is not by the numbers on the scoreboard, because again, you could half-ass through a game and we're still going to win. The way that you know you're successful is based on you looking yourself in the mirror and knowing that you did everything you could do to help our team today. You did everything you could do to be successful. You gave your best effort, because if you didn't give your best effort but you won anyway, you are not successful. And this is a really good way of looking at success. It's really you looking in the mirror. And this is the way that you can't prove this to another person. You can't prove this by achieving and winning a trophy or making a certain amount of money or having people think certain things about you. Even though, again, in our society, our secular world, these are the ways that many of us measure success. And many of us even go for success, looking at those metrics. But when you got to look at yourself in the mirror, again, only you got to talk to you. And only you can be honest with you. Nobody else knows what you're saying out of your mouth or what you're writing in the caption is really how you feel, but you know. So where are you going with that? So the question that you have to ask yourself here is, how do you feel about yourself in your life? How do you feel about the path that you are on currently? How do you feel about your prospects for the future? And I think it's fair to include in these questions, in any discussion about success, since again, ultimately, when we log off of the internet for the last time, when you stop trying to impress everybody else, when everybody else is done talking about you and they move on to talking about somebody else, you're the one that you have to answer to. And you're the only one you have to answer to. And you're the only one who's going to be asking the questions. So how you feel about yourself plays a huge role in whether you are successful or not. It's not about what anybody else would feel if they had the achievements that you have, because who the hell cares what they would feel? They ain't got it. And they don't have to live with it. You do. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is what is success for you? Third question here is, what is your enough? What do you have to do? Where do you have to get to? What do you have to achieve to where you can say, you know what? I did this. This is accomplished. This is done. I have succeeded at this, and I can move on, or I can stop, or I can give myself a different aim, or I'm no longer measuring myself against this standard because I can check this box off. What is your enough in your life? There's a guy by the name of Sean D'Souza who has a podcast called The 3-Month Vacation. He has a really solid business. He's Indian. Sean is Indian, he and his wife, but he is based in Thailand, I think. It's either Thailand that he lives in or New Zealand. Actually, he's New Zealand. He lives in New Zealand, but he's from India. And I've exchanged some messages with Sean, so shout out to Sean. And he has his membership group, and I considered looking at. I didn't actually join, but I listened to a ton of his material, read a lot of his stuff, really good stuff. And once I was asking him about when it came to creating and running your business, and how do you know how far you're going to go with it, and how do you know what you need to get to, or what can you do to hold off on always pushing yourself to create more and do more and make more and earn more? Because Sean's show is called The 3-Month Vacation because he and his family, they literally go on a 3-month vacation every year. That's the way they set their business up, that they only work 9 months of the year, 75% of the year, 25% of every single year, they go on vacation and they don't do any work. And that is not because necessarily that they made so much money that they can just roll around in the money. And I mean, they do make good money. I see what they're doing in their business. I don't know exactly how much money they got, but they do pretty well in their business. And I see with the way that they run it, and I see the kind of audience and community that they've created. The reason why they take the 3-month vacation is because, and this is what Sean has said to me directly, is that we know how much our enough is. We know what we need to make so that we feel comfortable, we feel good, and we don't need to keep chasing a dollar. We don't need to keep chasing, oh, let's get some more, let's get a higher ranking, or let's get another award, or let's win another trophy, or let's do another XYZ, or let's just create more just for the fact of creating more, get more followers, or get more audience. We know what our enough is. So that's how they're able to take 3 months off on vacation. I know that myself and many people that are of my ilk, we couldn't take a 3-month vacation, at least not in our current mental state, because we're going to want to push ourselves to get back out there and get back into the hustle of creating, of doing something else, of putting something else out, of making some more money, of doing something, of just achieving something else. And Sean was explaining to me, and he didn't say it in so many words, but you got to decide where your finish line is at, to where you can stop, at least for the moment. Doesn't mean you got to quit life, but where you can stop at least for the moment. What is your enough? How much do you need to have that so that you know you don't have to keep trying to accumulate more? These are important questions to ask yourself, since many of us never allow ourselves, keyword, allow ourselves, to feel accomplished, even though we have achieved a lot of things that most people would say, hey, you are successful. We don't allow ourselves to feel successful because we're always in pursuit of the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So we never actually get to feel the success that we have created. The very thing that we were aiming for, we achieved that 6 months ago. We don't even feel successful yet because we haven't stopped to enjoy it and appreciate ourselves for it, because we're trying to get to the next thing and the next thing. So while I still stick to what I said, the first definition of success is that you have a worthy ideal and you're going after it. At the same time, that doesn't mean you can't allow yourself to appreciate who you are and what you've done and how far you've come to this point. For example, a good tongue-in-cheek anecdote to this is when Snoop Dogg was given his Hollywood star on a Walk of Fame. He got up and gave a speech, and you can look this up on YouTube, and he said, I want to thank myself. I want to thank me. I want to appreciate me for doing the hard work and going to the studio and continuing to stick with it and making it happen for myself. He was showing himself appreciation. And this is something that also Carmelo Anthony, basketball player, when he won, I think it was an ESPY award back before he came to the NBA. He won like the Player of the Year in college award. And he got up to give a speech, and he said, I want to thank myself. I want to thank myself for working hard and doing all the things I did to become successful. You got to be willing to thank yourself. Give yourself appreciation for what you've done and enjoy that. And it's okay to enjoy that. Doesn't mean you're slipping. Doesn't mean something wrong with you. Doesn't mean you're not being quote unquote productive in that moment. That's okay. All right. All life is not about being productive. It's about you. I would think being successful is more important than being productive. So what does successful mean to you? We know what productive means. It means you're working and hustling, but are you going to do that forever? Are you going to work yourself to death in the chase of the almighty productivity? Or at some point, can you appreciate yourself? When is it okay for you to say, you know what, I'm good. I've hit the finish line here. And if you don't have one, you don't have that finish line. You don't have a point where you can say, this is enough. This is accomplished. When do you stop running that race? And how can you ever win if you're always going to be running? If you're always going to be chasing something, how can you ever stop moving? How can you ever just accept yourself and appreciate yourself for who you are and what you've done? I will refer you to episode number 970, Stop Running the Rat Race. And I wasn't talking specifically in this context when I made that episode, but the principles of what I talk about there apply here as well as they apply the way that I originally talked about it. Again, that's episode number 970. You can get the full archive of the show by going to workonyourgamepodcast.com or go to dreallday.com/ put the number of the episode and then put a little dash, or use the search bar on the website, anywhere on their website, the little search bar at the top of the page. Recapping today's class, which is, what is success for you? When I ask people this question, everybody says they want to be successful. Many people say they don't know a lot of people who are successful. Then I ask people, what is success? Many people don't have an answer. So let's get clear on that, or at least let me give you some questions that'll help you really think about it, because we don't all have the same answer. Point number one, the work on your game definition of success is that you have goals and you are actively going after them. You don't necessarily have to adopt this definition. I wrote the whole book called The Mental Workbook around this definition, but you need to have a definition, period, for yourself. Most people say they want to be successful. Okay, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? If you don't know, how can you achieve it? Can't score without a goal. Point number two, when I asked Anna about success, she said, she talking about the internal conversation. How happy are you with yourself? Anthony Bourdain had a great life, or at least it appeared that he did. He had a great job, at least it appeared. He had the kind of career and did things that most people would give their entire lives over in order to do, and then he committed suicide. So apparently he wasn't that happy with himself. So your internal conversation, how you feel about you, plays a huge role in your success. Because if you're not happy with yourself, who cares how many cars you have or how much money you made or what trophies you have acquired if you're not happy? All right, is that success? I would say no. You could have all of the accomplishments that people go after, but if you feel miserable yourself, I wouldn't call you successful. I doubt you would even call yourself successful. So how do you feel about yourself, your life, your path, your prospects for the future? These should be in any discussion about success, since you're ultimately the one who has the answer to yourself. And point number 3, what is your enough? Sean D'Souza with 3 Month Vacation Podcast was a show that I suggest you check out. He talked about this. What is your enough? How do you know when it's okay for you to chill out and take a 3-month vacation? How much do you need to make? Do you need to just chase every dollar you can possibly get? Is there a time when you can calm down and relax and just live life instead of always chasing the almighty and ever evasive productivity? Can you feel successful and not still be in a pursuit of the next thing or the next thing or the next accomplishment? When is it okay to say you're good? What is your finish line? Because if you don't have one, you will forever be in a rat race and you'll never be able to stop running. And you will literally, eventually, work yourself to death. So where is that success for you, and how do you know that you've gotten there? You want to learn how to have that, first of all, mastering that internal conversation with yourself. I would suggest you take the Bulletproof Mindset course. So that can help you stop beating yourself up about not always chasing the next thing and the next thing and the productivity porn that we get inundated with on the internet. And the Bulletproof Mindset 2.0 course, 12-module course, is available exclusively at Work On Your Game University, along with 11 other courses and every other course we create moving forward. And you access that at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.